Hello and welcome to this, the third part in our series on linear workflows in Renderman Studio. In this episode we'll be looking at linearizing inputs, so that means images and swatches for use in linear workflows within Renderman. Okay, so let's just start off with our test scene which we made earlier on. It's a plane with, I've got 5 spheres here, and I will just start off with this first sphere here, putting a matte material on it. So this is going to be matte material 2. I've got matte material 1 on everything else currently. And for this material I'm going to have an image as the input for its surface color. So the image will be an image file, and that image file, I have actually got an image here from my recent trip to the USA. This is from Seattle Fruit and Vegetable Market, or Fish Market actually, and it's some chilies. You can see these chilies here, quite nice, bright and red. Okay, I'm going to leave this panel here on the side open for the moment because I'll be using this quite shortly. Okay, now let's render this image. Let's see what happens. We can see that it's coming out. You can see it here on the sphere, but it's slightly muddy. Sorry, I don't want to do that. Let's just cancel there for a second. I want to actually make this always on top so we can keep an eye on what's going on. So this image here is not really relating to what this should be. Let me see if I've still got Photoshop open here. I hadn't, so let me just open it up. File. Let's open that. So it should be looking somewhat more like this, and it's actually looking like this. Now it may be down to our lighting. What I'll do is I'll put in an environment light here, a Renderman environment light, so I can actually do a re-render here. It's just blowing out the light and everything else. Let's not worry about that, but this is still looking incredibly washed out. Let's zoom into it just a little bit more and render. Now the reason for this is because the image is not being corrected. It's not being brought out of its TGA format, which is non-linear, as we looked in our theoretical system here. This is from the Pixar website. So the image has not actually been converted back into a linear form before calculations for rendering are being done. So what we have to do is we have to take an sRGB image, which is what we have currently, linearize it, and then we need to actually have the calculations done, and the output is correct because I'm using the default output as discussed in the previous tutorial, the default output from it. So let's go back into Maya for a moment. Okay, now in Maya we've got a couple of options how we can actually fix this problem. Here's a material. Okay, in the file attributes for this image here, we can choose to change the color profile here. This is the first way, and this is the way in which I used to do things all the time. So you have to tell Renderman and Maya that the input image is coming in as sRGB because it doesn't know. If I just tell it that it's linear sRGB and I go to re-render, we will see quite a dramatic difference. Now this is looking substantially better than what we had before. So this is the first option. In the file attributes we can tell it what the input is and it will actually work. Now there is a better option, which is to do with Renderman texture controls. If we go up to our attributes tab here, go to Renderman, add texture controls, and open up this extra tab which we have access to here now. Down here we have the option to linearize sRGB. Now if we have a look here, I have default input profile here. I'll just re-render it again and see what it looks like. It'll go back to the original one, which is quite washed out. Okay, if I linearize here, I will get back what I had before. So it's taking a non-linear image, linearizing it, so we get the richness of our original texture back into our render, which is cool. That's what we're looking for. Now there is a third potential way of doing this, but I have not managed to get this to work correctly. Let me just turn this off as well. So it's not linearizing, so we're back to this, re-render. The third potential method of doing this is actually under our render controls in Renderman. Not that one, sorry. Let me just go to Renderman and actually under render settings here. Excuse me one moment. Render settings. Here we go. These are render settings. So this has enabled color management here, okay? Which would have a default input profile of sRGB and a default out of linear sRGB. Unfortunately, it's not actually taking these at the moment. So if I go to re-render here, these master settings in the Maya interface are not being picked up by Renderman. So let's not worry about this. I believe that's being dealt with in future releases, quite possibly. So this has no effect on it that I'm aware of. Tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, so remember that we only need to do this for images that are sRGB to start with. And my advice is to use this system here with the extra Renderman attributes. It's better to keep control of things, okay? Now remember as well that you don't need to, and you indeed do not want to do this for images, color images, which are not being used specifically for color. So in other words, images that are being used for normal maps are vector displacement maps. You do not want to linearize because the information on those is not color information as such, it's vector information. You don't want to mess with vector information, it's only color information you want to use. Okay, so let's go on and have a look how we'll actually do this with Slim. Let's attach a standard material to this. Let's just go to any material. Let's put another map material on. Now remember, when we use Slim, it overrides the material that's here, so it doesn't make any difference here. I can make this purple or something weird here. Just make it like that. We'll see when I go to re-render here, it'll show this up as a strange color, which is what we want. But as soon as I go into Slim and attach material, it'll change. Let's go to Slim. Okay, Slim is opening up. First thing we always want to do in Slim is make a new palette. File, new palette. Go into this palette, right click, and let's make a general purpose material. GP surface. Okay. Now we've got Slim and we've got Maya. We also have it over here. Let's just see what happens. So the color here currently is white. GP surface, right click, attach as surface. If I now go and re-render, re-rendering this window here, we'll see that indeed it has changed this. Okay, cool. So we know that this surface is overriding the surface that was applied in Maya. We want to put our image into this. Okay, so to do this, right click and colors, maps, image file. So you get an image file and middle mouse drag the surface and put it in the surface color. So we've now got a little noodle here which connects our image file into our surface, and you can see in the side panel here we have the image file. Let's click on this and go to open and image files. I need to go to all files here because it doesn't automatically recognize TGAs. So the Chili's 8-bit per channel, and go and open it. I get an error here, okay? Chili's 8-bit channel is not a texture file. I know about this, I'll just show you what happens. We'll fix this in a moment. I'll go to re-render, and what happens is we get an error thrown up here and our image turns out slightly black here. How to fix this? Little button here beside the file open. Convert textures. Okay, let's convert the textures. And we can see the texture here now. Let's go to re-render. Still extremely blown out. Okay, now the reason why it's blown out, there are a couple of reasons here in this case. Let's go into the surface. If we have a look at our specular gain is up to 1, so we don't actually want it to be specular, we want it to be a matte material similar to the first material we made. So just turn the specular gain way down and re-render. But it's still looking slightly washed out. The reason for this is, again, in our image file here, we have the option to linearize. Under color balance here, we can linearize. So let's just click on linearize and right click, re-render. Okay. Let's see how we're going there. And yes, we have the same result which we're expecting. So in this tutorial, we have managed to linearize standard RGB images in both Slim and Renderman for Maya. I hope this has been useful to you. We'll come back in a couple of minutes and we'll have a look at fixing up swatches in both Slim and Maya. Okay, speak to you soon, and I hope this has been useful to you.